Hi, felt ya. Um, it's been a while since I've done a video, since the publication of my book, in fact, which I thank everyone that's bought a copy of, and my love goes out to you for the positive feedback I get from it. Today's sort of subject I want to talk about is seining, which is a Scottish folk tradition or practice where it's used for cleansing, ideally to counteract like the evil eye, spells, and malevolent forces put upon yourself, your kin, your livestock, why not, your home. And I think it's great that people are moving away from, closed practices such as smudging, which was heavily enforced and encouraged constantly in books during the 90s and early 2000s, some which I'm very familiar with in reading books around about that time. And I'm glad that sort of, closed practice has come to light. And it's nice that people wanting to sort of to get more closer to their own roots and move away from that. As like myself, that's more close to home, is singing. However, like I've seen a lot of TikTok videos, people on Facebook, Instagram, general social media, spreading a lot of misinformation on the history and the terminology and the practice in itself. And I feel like I need to make this video because that misinformation is not really healthy to the ancestors, people that presently still use them practices in Scotland. So number one is portraying it as a sort of pan-Celtic practice, as something that is practiced throughout all the Celtic nations, or as far as going as calling it the Celts did this and referring it as some kind of ancient Celtic practice. This is not true. Certainly the word saying in referring to this practice is particularly Scottish, mostly within the north of Scotland, but in other parts. But it is essentially Scottish. Within the Celtic nations, I agree with that, but it is Scottish. It's not mentioned. Sain is not mentioned in any other like Welsh, Irish, Brittany, all them other nations. So that's one thing. Two is it being purely referred to as like an infumigation ritual, a ritual act that you use to smoke or some kind of fire involved of herbs or burning herbs. Although that's one element of, that you can use in Saining, it's not completely all. So water can be used, stones can be used, earth taken from certain locations can be used, and I talk about this in my book. Things like forspoken waters, for such. Yes, that is water. But it's the use of using several stones and water and using a specific thing to bless or to sain something. You can use bundles, and it's great because I see a lot of people using bundles as an alternative to using white sage. I myself make bundles on my Etsy group, which I make saining bundles of like cedar, juniper, lavender even. However, stuff like I've heard people saying using mugwort and hawthorn, which is the most I've never, especially hawthorn, I've never heard of using hawthorn in sort of fumigation rites. I'm not quite sure about that. However, like insane in tradition in Scotland, like you're using a lot of things. You can use water. It's the act of counteraction against the malevolent forces within the spiritual realm. Against witches, the she Neveu, the fairies, like the devil, like, to counteract ill intent or good bad luck. Ideally, seining was used within farming communities where your cattle or your crops were seined, or seining rituals were performed so that no harm will come to them, because it's your livestock. If your livestock goes, you go. Like, it's lived in very different time today, where if your livestock goes, your crops fail, that's your, not only your livelihood gone, but that's your family going into starvation. You know, it pretty much living on the tipping of the scales, as it speak. But yeah, another thing is, you know, seining, meaning to make sacred. It does not mean that. It comes from the root word, a Gaelic root word, which is shean or shuan, which means like a charm, to make a charm, whether it's a physical charm you make or to speak a charm. It is the active charm, like what we would call, well, my grand would call active prayer. I put an object, in this case, to counteract, to cleanse, to bless, or exercise. Seining could be used for that as well. Seining can be a lot of useful in many things, and I think it's great that I see, you know, so many modern practitioners using it in their own rites and their own personal practice, because as I stress enough, it's okay to modernize it. It's okay to go with the times of today, because I'm a great believer that as soon as, you know, folk magic lives because it lives within the people, the folk. And if it doesn't evolve, it doesn't move with the times, it becomes stagnated, it becomes archaic, and it dies. So, but folk magic doesn't do that. It lives within us. It evolves. And it's great to see people using it in their personal practice. However, in a historical sense or in a cultural sense, it's not okay to say, just because what you perceive it or you practice as that is what it is, because that's problematic in itself. But yeah, that was the kind of rant I wanted to go with, and I will be doing some videos soon on different methods of seining, particularly, you know, for spoken waters, which I mentioned in my book. We're doing that either today or tomorrow, a video on how that's performed, because not only is it interesting, it's fucking magical. It's something I use in my own practice, in blessing, exercising, warding, counteracting. Seining is a very magical practice within Scottish folk tradition, and I think it shouldn't be misrepresented nor misled. It's magical in itself. You don't need to make it ancient or sound ancient, you know. Oh, and the other action as well, like people are saying the action that comes with it, because, you know, to cross, you know, a lot of the actions will say to cross over the water, saying saying. People are saying as into X marks the spot, and that's okay if you want to do that in your own practice. That's perfectly fine. Historical sense, I think this would be referring to, like, in Christian practice, predominantly Catholicism, you know, when you would cross an object or cross yourself, that's what it means. Same. Whether you're saying the action or not, you're still wanting to, essentially, in these folk traditions, bring in the power of the Trinity into that. So yeah, that's my rant-ish, and information, you know, as much as I know on the subject, and just debunk these ideas. I hope you enjoy my video. Peace out. Blessings to you all.